Good morning. This is our third Sunday morning coffee chat, and today's video is going to be discussing meal planning and meal prepping, because when we are in the losing phase of any kind of diet or healthy eating plan, meal planning and meal prepping is something that is important. So I have a couple of ideas, tips for you to help you either continue meal planning and meal prepping, or maybe to start if you've never started or thought about meal planning and meal prepping. So it's really hard to eat off plan when you've already brought all the food into your home and it's there and ready for you. You are going to be a lot more agreeable and excited to eat the food that you've already planned and already prepped for that week. I kind of laugh, and I think if you are somebody who has other people in your home, if you are shopping for your family, this is a little bit tricky, because I always tease, because my grocery cart, when you see me at the grocery store, half of it is going to look super good and healthy, and then the other half you're going to be like, did like your other personality buy this? Because you got Oreos and chips and stuff that we know that you don't eat. It is a little bit of a challenge when you are meal planning and shopping for not just yourself. So how I eat is not how the rest of my family eats, and that's okay. You just have to work with it. There does have to be a level of self-control so that you don't go in there and eat the stuff that you know that you really shouldn't be eating for you. By meal planning and meal prepping, it's going to help you reach your ultimate weight loss goal, because you're going to be able to make sure that the things that you are putting in your body are the things that are going to help you reach those goals. So a lot of times it's weight loss is what we're looking for. And so by meal planning and meal prepping, you already have the things that you need in your home to reach your nutrition needs, but also to be losing that weight. Another thing that it does is it helps you save money and time in the long run. So by having a meal plan set up, you already know the items that you need to buy. You can look in your pantry, you can look in your fridge, you can look in your freezer, and you can see if you already have some of that stuff on hand. So therefore, you're saving yourself money by not buying things that you already have, or find things that you're really not even going to use in that week or in that month, because you see it and you're like, oh, I want to try that. That looks good. So by having that meal plan in place, going to the grocery store with your list and only getting what's on your list, you're going to be saving yourself some money. The way that this saves you time is in the meal prepping department. So if you already prep all of your vegetables, and say you go ahead and you cook all of your meats ahead for that week, when it comes to dinner time, all you have to do is pull out the portion that you need. It's already cooked, warm it up, and you've got a good meal already done. So, and you can take that to several different levels. You can go ahead and prep your entire meals for that week. So you have your meats, you have your sides, you have your vegetables, everything done, and all you have to do is put it on your plate and warm it up. Or you can do it just where maybe you have dinners already planned, or maybe you go ahead and cook all of your breakfasts for that week. So there's a lot of ways that you can meal prep for yourself. Personally, what I do is I generally just worry more about dinners. Breakfast is pretty simple for me. It's either going to be eggs, yogurt, a protein shake. I'm trying to think what else I would have for breakfast. Maybe once in a while I'll do like keto bagels, or I'll do keto pancakes, but generally I stick to eggs and another protein source for my breakfast. And then lunch for me is very simple. Again, I generally stick to protein shakes. That's just something that I like, especially now in summer when it is hot outside. Having an ice cold protein shake is absolutely wonderful. And that's me. That's what I like. And then my dinners tend to be more like the traditional dinner, where I've got a meat and I've got a couple of vegetable sides for my dinner. So for me, a lot of times just prepping dinner is enough to make the rest of the day flow very smoothly. Another thing that meal prepping and meal planning does for you is that it takes the guesswork out of it. So after working all day, you come home and you've done this, right? Oh, what do you want for dinner? What sounds good? And then if you don't already have something planned and prepped, the easiest thing to do is just go through drive-through or go to a restaurant and have somebody else prepare it for you, which is not bad in and of itself, but a lot of times how restaurants prepare things is not maybe on plan for what you're going to need for reaching your weight loss goals. By having your meal planning done, when you get off work, you're already thinking, okay, I'm having this. So when I get home, I'm going to do this and get everything together. It takes the guesswork out of your meals, so that way you can actually spend more mental work, or you can spend more of your mind on things that matter. So you're not having to drive home thinking, what am I going to cook for dinner? What do I have in the fridge? What do I have in the freezer? You've already done the hard part of making sure that everything that you need for that week is in your fridge, in your pantry, in your freezer, and all you have to do is put it together. And like I said, if you want to save even more time, go ahead and meal prep on the weekend, and that way when you get home, you might only have to spend 15 minutes getting dinner ready and it's on the table. So that is where meal planning, meal prepping saves you a lot of time in the end. Another thing that meal planning, meal prepping does is that it lets you know ahead of time what your macros are going to be, and it gives you the ability to make adjustments prior to eating things. And what I mean by that is, how many times have you eaten something? So say you're doing really good on your meal plan, you're hitting your macros that you need to hit based on your specific meal plan, and it comes to dinner, you're really hungry, so you just eat stuff and you're like, I'm gonna calculate this after I eat. So you do that, you eat your meal, you really enjoy it, and then you start calculating it and you're like, I just blew my entire day because of this meal. So by meal planning, you can go ahead and see your day and see, oh, you know what, this day I'm going to be a little bit low in this area. I can add more protein, or it's going to be a lower calorie day, so I can have a treat. But you're able to adjust your macros accordingly earlier than trying to make up for it at the end of the day, if that makes sense. And so a lot of times what I personally do is I actually plan my meals a day in advance. So when I go to bed, let's say I go to bed on Monday, I already know what I'm going to be eating for Tuesday. Now, for somebody who struggles with food addiction, this is a very calming experience for me. I don't worry about what I'm going to eat. I'm not overthinking what I'm going to eat. I just already know what I'm going to have. And so that has been something that has helped, again, more with emotional eating, which was what we talked about last week. By having a meal plan and doing it a day in advance, there is no guesswork. I don't have to wonder what's for breakfast, what's for lunch, what's for dinner, what are my snacks. Everything is already planned out ahead, down to the macros, because I count calories is how I do keto. And there's the three primary groups that we look at. So it's fat, protein, and carbs. So I already know going into the new day, where my protein, fat, and carb levels are going to be at, and I can adjust it beforehand. And that's where I really find a lot of success in my weight loss journey, is by planning ahead, meal planning. I have been meal planning and meal prepping for about 5 years. It is just part of my daily life, part of my weekly life. I go ahead and start thinking of meals that sound good and start just giving myself little notes here and there around the house of, oh, well, let me check and see if I have this, or I'll need this if I'm going to make that recipe. And it has become almost a hobby to me, which is good. And I feel like when you are on a weight loss journey of any kind, whether it be you are trying to lose weight, or say you're on the other spectrum of that and you're needing to gain weight, I have used meal planning and meal prepping as kind of a hobby. And it's been something that's been very fun for me, if I can say that. I really do enjoy sitting down with a cup of coffee, cup of tea, whatever season it is, maybe a Diet Coke, whatever. I really enjoy sitting down and meal planning, going through my pantry, going through my fridge, going through my freezer, and making sure that I'm using the food that I already do have and coming up with meals with those things. I find it very enjoyable, and I find it very refreshing. And from somebody who struggles with maybe thinking about food too much, this is a healthy outlet for me to think about food. Because yes, I need to prepare meals for me. I need to prepare meals for my family. But this is a fun outlet for me to think about food in a healthy way and to make those meals good for all of us and to meet all of our needs. If you're just starting meal planning and meal prepping, it can seem a little daunting and a little hard to grasp. But I promise you it is well worth your effort and your time in learning how to do it. So my personal suggestion, and when I started meal planning and meal prepping, is I just started with one meal. So I did dinner because that seems to always be the hard one for me. Breakfast and lunch are kind of simple, but it was dinners that were always the hardest for me. After a long day of work, I'd come home and I'd be like, the last thing I feel like doing is cooking or figuring out what I'm going to cook with the food I have, or I want to cook something and I don't have the food. So the first thing I started is I started planning 2 or 3 meals a week. And I would look through my pantry and look through all of my food stores and see what do I have that I can make, or what do I need to get at the grocery store. So I would plan those 2 or 3 meals. I would do my shopping. I would come home, and I generally did it on Saturday. Was like Saturday morning was when I would do it, and this was when my daughter was like newborn, so she had several nap times during the day. So I would plan it during her nap time. And so I would go ahead and cook everything for those 2 or 3 meals that I had picked. I would either freeze them or put them in the refrigerator so that they would be ready for the week. And then after I got into the habit of doing that, where I would do that for a couple of weeks, and I really got into the flow of being able to meal plan, bring all the ingredients home, cook it, and put it away. Then I started adding more meals, and then I started doing more of bulk cooking, where I would maybe cook 2 or 3 of something and freeze 2 of them for down the road in the month. And so at this point, so that's one way that you can get started, is just by doing 2 or 3 meals and getting comfortable with that, and then increasing it as you're feeling that you have the hang of it. The other thing you can do is you can just gradually add more to what you're already doing. So say you're meal planning for 2 or 3 meals. Add a little bit more so that your entire week is planned ahead. And that might just be like how I do it a lot of times, is that night before I'll sit down in the quietness of the house after everyone's gone to sleep. I'll sit down and I'll go ahead and think through, what am I going to eat for tomorrow? And you can do it that way too. And that really works for me. And you can think about your day too, because here's the other thing. Meal planning and meal prepping works great when you're home, but what about when you have those trips? Or what about when you are going on vacation? Or what about when somebody calls you and is like, hey, I'm in town, let's go get dinner tonight? So you do have to have some flexibility. Life happens, and it's okay if, say, you don't use one meal for that week. The nice part is it can roll over into the next week, especially if you're freezing your food. You can freeze it and then just pull it out when you're ready for it, and that makes it nice too, because then that means that's one less meal you have to cook for next week. But when you go out to eat, you have to make sure that you're still making those wise decisions with your food, because it's not necessarily planned on your meal plan. But if you have things that are planned, like vacation, or you have a birthday party, or you have an anniversary, or you have a get together with friends, you can kind of plan that into your meal plan ahead of time. And that's, again, going to help you reach those goals that you want. So I know I did not hit every possible tip for meal planning and meal prepping. These are just kind of, again, scratching the surface of it. I'd love to hear your tips and tricks for meal planning and meal prepping. Do you meal plan? Do you meal prep? Do you like it? Is it a necessary evil? I would just love to talk about it. So until next time, have a wonderful morning and make those good choices. Drink your amazing cup of coffee, and I'll see you soon.